Last season, outside of the Cincinnati Bengals, the Las Vegas Raiders were one of the biggest surprises in the NFL. This team made it to the postseason, won 10 games despite all the adversity that they had to face. I mean, they lost their head coach, you had the Henry Ruggs incident, and then they got ice cold during the middle portion of the year. And then late November, the month of December, they just were able to flip the switch and they got really hot. And I always tell people, late November is where we start to see the pretenders separate themselves from the contenders. And for a while, it looked as if the Las Vegas Raiders were going to be a non-factor. And then they just got really, really hot late in the season when it mattered the most. And it's not about how you start, it's about how you finish. And the Raiders finished the season last year in 2021 out really strong. And by the way, they had a really competitive game against the Cincinnati Bengals in the wild card round. And if the ball would have bounced in a different direction, they might have been able to win that game. And by the way, it came down to the last play of the game, a goal line stand that ended up winning the game for Cincinnati. So for the Las Vegas Raiders, their fan base has a lot of optimism going into this season. You have a new head coach in Josh McDaniels, who is getting his second stint in the NFL as a head coach after, his first one with the Denver Broncos didn't really go all that well. And this offense is going to be really explosive. I mean, you have a loaded group of weapons when it comes to the passing game. You traded for DeVante Adams, who is the best wide receiver in the NFL right now, in my opinion. You have Hunter Renfrow, a.k.a. Third and Renfrow, pretty much the best slot receiver in the game. You're going to have Darren Waller. Hopefully he's able to stay fully healthy this season. And then you still do have Josh Jacobs at running back. And by the way, you have Patrick Graham as your defensive coordinator, who may be the best DC that you have had in over the last decade or so. So there is a lot of optimism if you are a Raiders fan. And my best case scenario for this team is 11-6. Derek Carr is really underappreciated. I think that he was pretty much 85, maybe 90% of the reason why the Las Vegas Raiders were able to make it into the playoffs. And a lot of people don't realize just how good Derek Carr is. Now you improve the wide receiver position. You give him somebody who has a lot of familiarity with him. Remember, DeVante Adams and both Derek Carr played at Fresno State together. So the chemistry is going to be there. Hopefully they get the timing and stuff right and they learn the offense and everything in time for the season. Maybe they could get out to a slow start, having to learn the system and whatnot. But I do think that when you look at what this offense has from a skill position standpoint, this is one of the most talented offenses in the NFL. You look at the defense. The defense, you bring in Chandler Jones, who could be an upgrade from Yannick Ngakoue. He's getting up there in age, but he's still putting up godly numbers. And with Max Crosby on the other side, this is one of the best pass rushing tandems in the NFL. Then you also have a defensive line that also should be pretty good against the run. Then you have Denzel Perryman, who is coming off a Pro Bowl caliber season. Not really sure who's going to be the other inside linebacker who lines up next to him. That's going to be a little bit of a concern for me. I think that the secondary isn't all that great. So for Las Vegas, I think I can't really see them winning more than 11 games this year. And the offensive line concerns me. But if the offensive line improves and it's way better than what it was last season, there's no doubt in my mind that Las Vegas could be a team that ends up not only winning 11 games, but they could be a sneaky team in the playoffs that could make a little bit of a Cinderella playoff run. But my worst case scenario for this team is 5-12. You see, the Raiders are one of those teams that has a extremely high floor, extremely high ceiling, and an extremely low floor. I mean, this offensive line is not good. And I've been arguing with Raiders fans all offseason about how this offensive line is going to perform. And I keep telling them, this is not a good offensive line. Just because you made it to the playoffs last year of this offensive line doesn't mean you're going to be able to do it again. And most likely, you're not. And the reason for that is because this division got better. People seem to forget that their team isn't the only team that matters. People never really realize that, yeah, my team got better, but so did all the other teams in the division. The Chargers now have Khalil Mack now. You're going to have to deal with him and Joey Bosa. Is Alex Leatherwood going to be able to hold on and improve this season? Or is he going to end up proving to be a bust? And then on top of that, you do bring back Denzel Good, but is he really going to be that big of an addition that he's just going to drastically improve the offensive line with him coming back fully healthy? I don't really think that, because when you look at how Denzel Good has performed over the last couple of years, he's been all right, but he hasn't really been anything great or outstanding. And then the fact that you're hoping that Alex Leatherwood is going to develop this year, I think it's kind of just wishful thinking. So for the Raiders, their offensive line is a giant concern. And I can bet money that if this offensive line performs the way that it did last season, this year, they're not going to make it to the playoffs. Because this division is just way too tough to win or have a lot of success in if you can't hold your own on the line of scrimmage. And for the Las Vegas Raiders, that is a big concern that I have. What's the point of trading for DeVante Adams if you're not going to give Derek Carr enough time to throw him the football? Now, the secondary also is a big concern of mine as well. I like Trayvon Moehrig, but outside of him, don't really have a lot of confidence in anybody else. I do like Mullen a lot. However, can you stay healthy? And when he is healthy, he's above average at best. So you don't really have a great secondary outside of slot cornerback Nate Hobbs, who had a fantastic rookie season. That's about the only person I really trust. Jonathan Abrams is really just great in run support. He's not really all that great in coverage. So for the Las Vegas Raiders, although you do have defensive coordinator Patrick Graham, I don't think that this defense is going to be all that great right away. And former New York Giants players have said this about Patrick Graham's defense, that it's a learning curve to it. It's a really hard to learn defense because there are a lot of nuances in it. There are a lot of details that are implemented in this defense that takes certain players a while to grasp. So my record prediction for the Raiders this season is 6-11. I don't think that this is going to be the year that the Raiders go off. I think their offense is going to be really good, but overall how they're going to perform as a team, I think they're only going to win 6 games. And you're probably going to say, if you're a Raiders fan, man, JT, we had so much success last year because of our offensive line not being great. We still made it to the playoffs. That was last year, ladies and gentlemen. Are we just going to ignore the fact that the Chargers got better? Are we just going to ignore the fact that the Chiefs are still the Kansas City Chiefs, even if they did lose Tyreek Hill? What about the Denver Broncos? They got better also. And there's no way that you're going to be able to win a tough division with this bad of an offensive line. Cincinnati did it because the AFC North, Baltimore had the majority of their starters on IR before the season even started. You have the Pittsburgh Steelers, who were not all that great. And the Cleveland Browns were a disappointment last season. Plus, they had a crippled Baker Mayfield at quarterback. So you have to take everything into context. There's not going to be another Cincinnati. What Cincinnati did last year is the equivalent to somebody winning the lottery. You have a low chance of being able to do it again. And for the Las Vegas Raiders, even though I do have confidence in what Josh McDaniels can be as a head coach this go around in Las Vegas, I do think that this could be a season where Las Vegas ends up having a losing season. And I know Raiders fans are going to be upset about that, because I understand that you had a lot of success last year given the variables, given the fact that your offensive line wasn't that great. But at the same time, you have to understand that this division has gotten better. And there aren't a lot of teams that can make it far in a tough division if you can't handle yourself on the line of scrimmage. Football is still a game that is won and lost in the trenches. And if you can't win the battle up front, then 9 times out of 10, you're going to lose. So this is my record prediction for the Las Vegas Raiders. I have them at 6-11. Like I said, I could see them having 11 wins this season if the offensive line improves, but I don't really have a lot of confidence that that offensive line is going to improve this season.